Some consider the Humpy to be one of the greatest fly patterns of all time. I appreciate it most for its visibility in the riffle water and versatility as a dry dropper lead. It only takes a few materials, but the techniques require a bit of practice to get them down. I'm going to start off with a size 16 dry fly hook of your liking. I always pinch the barb for easy release before starting a base of cream 70 denier ultra thread. Even though we're going to be tying the tail in first, we're going to bring our thread up the hook shank to the 3/4 point. I tie the Hump Day Humpy with light elk hair for both tail and wing. Some like to use moose mane or deer hair as the tail. Try out different materials and see what works best for you. Trim a small clump of elk hair from the patch and remove any fuzz with the comb. Add the hair to your favorite stacker and align those tips. Then you can bring the hair to your hook for measurement. Measure the tail to be about the length of the hook shank. I like to trim it twice, once after transferring the tips to my materials holding hand, and then measure one more time to make sure the tie-in point is where I want it. We can begin by capturing the hair with some tight wraps to hold the materials in place. The biggest challenge with tying the Humpy is making sure the tail and wing materials don't splay out and get all crazy when you're tying them in. To keep things under control, we need to maintain medium to light tension on our wraps as we take them rearward. Pull out about 5 inches of thread from your bobbin before adding your medium tension wraps towards the tail of the fly. You want these wraps to go all the way back to the base of the exposed tail fibers. If you need more thread during the process, be sure to bring your wraps forward so that you don't splay out the back fibers with tension. You can make more secure wraps forward to the original tie-in point. The Hump Day Humpy has a thread body, so use that to cover any rogue hair ends and make the body smooth throughout. Back at the original tie-in point again, we're going to tie in another clump of elk hair for the back body and wing material. Like before, trim a section from the patch of hair and run it through the stacker after cleaning out all the fuzzy underfur fibers. Bring the aligned tips to the hook shank for measurement. You want this section to be the same length as the body and tail combined. If you want more prominent wings, leave this section a little bit longer. Like before, we need to carefully tie in these fibers to ensure they remain in order. Beginning at the front, we capture the fibers with 2 or 3 nice secure wraps, anchoring the hair in place. Then, after extending the length of thread from our bobbin, we can begin making wraps rearward, just strong enough to hold the hair down. We want to bring these wraps all the way back to where the exposed tail begins before coming forward again with a bit more tension on the hair this time, using your thread again to cover all the hair and form the body of the fly. Once at the front again, we can begin pulling our elk tips forward over the top to form the wing of the fly. Pull the wing material forward and allow any short tail fibers that come along with it to fall out from the back of the group before pushing the fibers forward from the rear with your thumb. At the same time, you're going to pull these tips forward and hold them in place on top of the hook with your other hand. Add a wrap of thread to hold the fibers down while you continue to maneuver them on the top side of the hook. Once where you'd like them to be, crank down with 3 or 4 good hard wraps of thread to splay the wing fibers out and stand them up a bit. Then you can pull everything back and bring thread wraps in front to create a little dam that'll continue to stand that wing up. Also, bring some thread wraps around the base of the elk hair wing to lightly post the material and add a few more wraps of thread to the front of the wing to solidify the dam. Before tying in the hackle for this fly, we need to divide the wing tips into 2 sections. Split them down the middle with a bodkin or by pulling them apart with your fingertips. Then use thread wraps to make figure 8s to keep the wing divided. Once you get them separated, I like to go in and add a few post wraps around each wing base to make them a bit stronger. It's a good idea to add a few half hitches to save your work here, and even add a dab of head cement in between your wings to solidify the foundation. The final step is adding some hackle. The color of your hackle can vary with the color of your Humpy. This light hair fly will be accompanied by a light grizzly hackle and a brown hackle. Strip off the fluffy butt fibers and trim the stem to a manageable length. Tie these butt ends in beginning behind the wings. Bring your thread forward to in front of the wings to finish tying them down. Then we can begin bringing the hackle feathers forward. We want to make about 1.5 to 2 wraps of hackle on each side of the wing. Don't worry about going in between the wings with your hackle fibers. It doesn't wrap very easily and it's really unnecessary. Once you get to the front with your hackle, capture it with 2 wraps of thread over the top and a few wraps in front to lock it into place. Pull everything back with your fingertips and add a few more thread wraps in front before finishing it with a half hitch right behind the eye. Once you get a few half hitches put in, you can pull the tag end of each hackle feather to break it from the fly. Then just push your scissors on through and cut your thread. Add another dab of head cement to the thread wraps just to keep them tightly together. The Hump Day Humpy is one of my favorite dry fly patterns for imitating a number of insects and running a very visible dry dropper rig. The fly lands softly and floats high. Make it a fun one to cast and a very effective one to fish. Swing on down to your favorite fly shop and get these materials so that you can practice your humpy tying techniques. Go to hagensfish.com or call the shop to make sure you're well stocked with Larva Lace tying materials. Many of our featured flies and the fish that they've caught are showcased on the Fly Tying University Facebook page. Other patterns and fishing techniques are shared there too, so join the growing community for all fly tyers and share your experiences with the group. Preserve your fishing stories and voices of anglers you care about at fishstories.org. Thanks for tying your flies with Larva Lace. Tight lines and best fishes.